Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat, and today I am doing my wrap-up for the end of July. I know it's a bit late, I'm very sorry about that. I shoot with natural lighting and it has been rainy, and I've also been procrastinating, so yeah, we're just gonna do it today. And I have quite a bit to talk about. I have 7 books, 3 of those are graphic novels, and some of them are really amazing and some of them are not so amazing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. If you hear little click clacking, that's because my dogs are in here with me. They're just kind of palling around. So this is my number 104 book to my 109 book. So I'm pretty happy. I'm in the, I broke the 100s a while ago. And yeah, I'm just chugging along this year and I'm reading some great stuff. So the first thing I want to talk about is the only DNF at the end of July that I had, which is A Sense of Wonder. So this is a short story collection of 3 short stories by John Wyndham and 2 other people, Murray Leinster and Jack Williamson. The reason I picked it up was because it had John Wyndham in here, and I have really loved other stories by Wyndham. However, my husband and I do this thing where we read to each other before bed at night. It's something that my therapist recommended for my insomnia, and it works wonderfully. We put each other to bed all the time, which is adorable, like when you're reading through your book and you look over and they're asleep. Totally recommend. But this book was just, neither of us could get into it, and I've tried to read it by myself alone before. Just, it's not for me, I think. So this one is going to find a new lovely home with my step-aunt Christine, and I will give it to someone who will maybe enjoy it more than I would. Although I do love the cover, like, something has to be said about the older covers. I really enjoy them, so no shade on the cover. I love it, just, it's not for me. Okay, then the 3-star read for the month was Note to Self by Franta. So I know that maybe this seems like out of sorts with what I normally read, because I normally read like darker stuff, but I really like Franta's aesthetic. So if you don't know, he is really into photography and like pastels, just like generally like calming, very calming stuff. So this book is a combination of like his photography, which is gorgeous, and things about himself that he's opening up about, such as like a breakup and depression. So there's another one. His chapter actually on depression in here is probably one of the best depictions of depression I've ever read, and I personally have diagnosed depression amongst some other buffet of mental illnesses. So I'm always on the lookout for things that mention depression, and that's not why I picked this book up. I picked it up because I thought it would be aesthetically calming, and I always really like books that I can pick up and have a quick like look through, and it will like calm me down or like make me feel just, you know, like I'm feeling nice. So that book definitely did this, but the depression chapter actually like made me cry. So this was really good. If that sounds at all intriguing to you, go ahead and pick this up. I got this at, I believe, Target. It was for just $10. So yeah, it was really good. Okay, now the next 3 books I want to talk about are all graphic novels that I read when I was looking for a illustrated book for my niece. Now, I said books because they're all Shaun Tan, and Shaun Tan is an Australian illustrator. I would reckon that he's maybe one of the premier Australian illustrators currently. Pretty much everyone knows him here, and I love his style. It's very dark and creepy. But I saw 3 of his books, which were in the children's section, so I was like, oh, maybe I can pick one up from an author that I really love that would be suitable for my niece, who's turning 3. No. These are so dark, they're not appropriate for a young child. I would say maybe they're appropriate for age 8 or 9 and above. I'm just going to talk about them in order of my preference of them. So the first one I want to talk about is The Lost Thing. There's a man who finds kind of this lost thing. It's kind of like a metal robot, I guess, that is kind of anthropomorphized, and he's journeying through the city to find out where it belongs. And it's a commentary on how people just miss things that are right in front of their face, like every day, that we get too caught up in like the hubbub of everyday life, that we miss things that are maybe need our help or that we would appreciate interacting with, just because we're so busy. And I liked this one the least of the three because I thought that the message wasn't totally clear, but overall I did give it 4 stars. I gave all 3 of these 4 stars, so it's just like a tiny bit that I enjoyed some more than the others. So the next one I want to talk about by Shaun Tan is The Red Tree, and this is a discussion of a tiny girl who is feeling really blue and down and not connecting with anyone. And I mean, this one is, I believe, a metaphor for like depression, or SADS, some sort of disorder where for a long period of time you would feel unengaged with other people. Maybe you wouldn't leave the house, and just about reconnecting with people, even if it's really difficult. So I really liked this one. I was surprised that such a dark story, and also the illustration is quite dark, so it's like dark content plus dark illustration style. So again, I think this is for like an older young reader, if that makes sense, like not 3 to 8, more like maybe 10 and up, for them to be able to maybe get it. And then my favorite one, I guess, I gave 4 stars. It's called Rules of Summer. Now this is like proper dark, like proper dark. So I wouldn't give this to anyone under like maybe 14, 15, I think. And we're following 2 boys who they're playing in summer. So they're free and they're going around the city playing every day in summer. And some pages are really sweet of them playing like in a field, and some pages of them are really dark. Like one boy is inside watching television with a monster, while the other boy is locked outside freezing outside at the window trying to get in. There's just a lot, like the pains alternate between being like totally fine and then like, for myself, I was like, wow, that's really dark. And some of it is also like in snow time, so it's not necessarily summer, but I think it's like the idea of the 2 boys playing and things get darker than they mean them to be. So I really enjoyed it, but again, I don't think it should have been in the children's section, like at all. So obviously none of these helped me find a book for my niece. No, but I did really enjoy them, and I really do love Shaun Tan's illustration style. And in fact, I have 3 Shaun Tans that I am reading for Newts for August, and I'm loving them. They are billed as adult though, because I guess someone had properly categorized them at the library. Yeah, so you'll hear more about Shaun Tan in the future. I'm in love with Shaun Tan. He's one of my favorite illustrators now, and I also just really appreciate his really dark humor, dark content. So if you're looking for any of that goodness, then I highly recommend him. He's kind of awesome. Okay, so if you were wondering, the following 2 books are, yeah, just dark. So this one is called Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. So I have not read much Gillian Flynn. I think I watched the movie Gone Girl, and I have watched the TV series Sharp Objects, which is based off of her novel Sharp Objects. And I really liked both of them, but I'd never read her before, so I was a bit hesitant because, you know, like when thriller writers get really hyped, it makes me really suspicious for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, so going into this, I was like, oh, I don't know, but I bought it for $3 at a thrift store in Australia, so there was nothing to lose and everything to discover. And Gillian Flynn, wow, so dark, so creepy, I loved it. So we are following Libby Day, who is part of the family known as the Satan Sacrifice incident, where her whole family was murdered in this offering to Satan in Kansas, and she was the sole survivor, other than her brother, who went to jail and was the confirmed killer. Or was he really? So we are following Libby, and she is broke, kind of just the absolute worst. So you're not rooting for her by any stretch of the imagination, but as time goes on, you realize like she's terrible with money, like she's gonna do anything to like not have to work, like she has really bad like anxiety and like all the different kind of stuff that has just led her up to being like needing money fast. So when she finds out about a group that kind of like researches murders and mass killings and serial killers, she meets up with them in order to like get money from them, essentially, to sell off her family's possessions. So yeah, she's a super unlikable main character. However, when the group offers her more money in order to like interview people that have to do with the incident in the past, she decides to go for it because of course she needs money. But she starts on the trail and discovering what really happened. This was really dark. I gave it 4 stars. I could not put it down. I think I read it in one day. I just flew through this. Like, I could not see the twist coming. I like did not know what was happening. And yeah, it was so good. It was written so well. And for anyone that is an Australian watcher or Australian reader of Australian literature, I find Gillian Flynn's writing style very similar to Jane Harper, who I have read for August. So when I do my August beginning wrap up, I'm gonna film that next. You will see that like Gillian Flynn and Jane Harper are like twins in my mind. They are amazing and they do a lot of dark thriller content that is written very well, very fast paced, and you cannot put it down. So highly recommend. It was dark and I loved it and it was great. Okay, so my top read of the last bit of July is The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. So when I saw that this was gonna be ordered at my local library, I jumped on and was like, ooh, me, and I reserved it and I was the first one and it came in and I felt so lucky that yeah, I was the first one. There's something about being the first one to read a brand new book. It just makes it feel like, oh, like yes, it's like kind of like you bought it, but not really. So in this one, we are following a young man known as Elwood, who's growing up in 1960s Florida. And he's growing up and he is really focusing on getting good grades at school, and he listens to the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, and he is just really trying to do his best. He works at a local corner shop. He wants to go to university. He wants to be the first person in his family to go to university. But something occurs and he is sent to the Nickel Boy Academy's reformatory school. And this is essentially a reform school, but not really. So he very quickly finds out that the school is more of just like a prison sentence where the boys live there, and there's a few different ways to get out of it, but all the avenues seem closed to Elwood, and it was really so heart-wrenching and brutal, and Colson Whitehead based this off of a real school. I looked it up when I finished reading, but it's based off of a real school in the South, and you can still see the pictures and the testimony from the men and the boys who were at the school. So part of the shocking thing about this is that many people beyond the school into the community were in on it. So for instance, they would kind of farm out the boys as like day labor or essentially slaves that would like live in their basement and do housework for them when they were supposed to be at school. Just really like a lot of corruption, as well as, you know, physical assaults, sexual assaults, just really not a good place, and not at all a school in any sense of the phrase. So if you are looking for something that documents a part of American history, then this, I think, did an extremely good job. It is quite short as well, and it packs a really big punch. I felt just like devastated by this book, and it put me in a little bit of a slump because I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I looked up like obsessively like all the information about the real school, and like made me so angry. And so like definitely don't read this like if you are not wanting to get in a bad mood, because like this will definitely put you in an angry mood. Like yeah, just so devastating and so like just so much anger and sadness and grief for the families and the boys who went through this. So I highly recommend it though. It is a harrowing read, but yeah, this is The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. So that wraps up my July wrap-up, book 104 to 109, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned about some new books. If you did, give me a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. That would be awesome. I will see you guys in a new video very soon. I'm gonna use the best of my time here while there's still natural light and there's no rain. It has been raining, but it went off for a bit. I think the sun is trying to shine through, so we're gonna go ahead and try and film as much as I can today. I hope that you're having an awesome day, and I will see you all later. Finger guns. Bye!